Just me. So this is the graphic of like how the universe was formed and like the stages that it goes through. And then there's debate on the Big Bang, whatever like that. But the Big Bang, then the universe just didn't happen. It went through these phases of inflation, rapid expansion, and then stuff started forming. Then the cool downs didn't happen until we get to like where we're at now, right? I look at my trading journeys being the same way, where it's like, boom, the Big Bang, I get into trading, right? I get into trading, and then, right, we get all this knowledge. That's the inflation. So the inflation part of the universe is like when everything is expanding at like a crazily rapid rate because it just exploded, whatever like that. And that is being new into trading, where I have all this knowledge, right? Everything is being thrown at you, right? Have you guys ever been in that situation where you're so excited, you want to learn, so you're buying every book on Amazon, I used to buy DVDs, that's before like all this stuff was online, but I was buying all these DVDs, I was watching all these YouTube videos, it was just like information spewing at me. It was like drinking from a fire hydrant or a fire hose, if you can imagine. Like the water was the information coming out. I was standing in front of it with my mouth open trying to get a sip and just like catching very little of it because it was too much, it was overwhelming, right? And then eventually, right, hopefully you get to the point where you start to realize like, hey, like this method isn't working. I got to slow down. I got to focus on a few things. And then as you evolve through that process, right, things start to form. You start to form kind of an identity. That would be similar to like the galaxy and the stars forming, right? You form an identity in the market. And I really started, and again, there's a whole kind of journey of me messing up and doing all this stuff and get rich quick stuff and trying out strategies and shining things hop in and blah, 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 blah. But we get to the point where like the universe is being formed and our solar system is being formed. And that is me really coming to my identity about the market. And that happened for me through the CTS system. Because what I noticed in the CTS system was that one of my non-negotiables in the market became structure, right? I found that this was the most important thing for me no matter what, right? Structure. Out of everything in my CTS checklist, my combined technical scoring checklist, structure had to be there. And that became the centerpiece of my philosophy. You guys hear me talk about it all the time, where it's like, structure is the backbone of my trading. Structure is the backbone of my trading, right? It wasn't always that way. Or at least maybe it was and I didn't know it. So structure became that non-negotiable, the biggest non-negotiable. And then I started forming larger non-negotiables outside of it. And what this does is it really identifies what your philosophy is. So if you're someone new, whether you're structure trading or not, doesn't matter. Find this thing, the most important thing, and then add on the secondary thing, right? If you're a chef, it's the same way as cooking, right? You have your base ingredients, and then you add on top of that, and add on top of that, and that develops your philosophy and ultimately your trading strategy around the market. So structure was the most important thing. So everything was centered around structure. Now, why is this important? Well, we go back to Ali's question about, we have all these things. I've got a structure zone, and I've got Fibonacci's, and I got AB equals CDs, and like, how do I know if they're in confluence? How do I know if they line up? Well, let me ask you guys this. Let's say structure is the main thing, right? Structure is the main thing. So what should be the first thing we identify on our chart? Structure. The first thing we identify on our chart is a zone of structure. Now, if structure is the main thing, in order to take a trade, do you think price should have to be in that level of structure or touch that level of structure? Or can we take a trade that price is outside that level of structure? Again, we're under the assumption that structure is the centerpiece, the main cog. Should price have to touch structure or be within structure, or can we take a trade outside of structure? All right, so structure is the main cog in this wheel, and we wanna center everything around the structure. This takes us back to our question. where it's like I have a pretty clear rule about identifying levels of structure, but what I find difficult is combining structure levels with fibs, equal measure moves, psychological numbers. I find it challenging to be consistent with how far these other levels can be from structure and still count as valid confirmation. All right, so let's go to that question. I find it challenging to be consistent with how far these other levels can be from structure to still count as a valid confirmation, so a valid score in my CTS. So thinking about what I just told you about structure and asking and thinking about that question, how would you answer that? Congratulations, we have a wiener. George says it needs to be within structure. Yes. So if structure is the key, if structure is the main component of what we're looking for, right? We're not looking for anything outside of structure, right? This is the main thing that needs to be included. This is the number one deal. Didn't leave enough room for the one, but the number one deal on our chart is structure, right? That means that we're only looking for validity inside this level. Would you guys agree? Everything else has to support. Remember my little spiraling circles? Structure was the main circle. Everything else has to support structure, right? You guys remember that? Structure circled and everything else supports it. Getting worse and worse with drawing circles, yeah. So if I have an equal measured move that comes outside of structure, right? Does this bring me any value? No. If I have a Fibonacci that comes below structure, does that bring me any value? If I have a psychological number above structure, does that give me any value? No. So these things, items, tools, techniques, all of the above, right? These things need to be present within our level of structure in order to be valid.